Today, we're digging into something that affects literally everyone, every single day, right in your own home, your water. We're going to break down whole house water filtration, what it is, how it works, and maybe most importantly, how you can figure out if it's something you actually need.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Every time you turn on that faucet, run the dishwasher, or hop in the shower, you're using water that's all coming from the same main source. So what's really in that water? Well, let's find out.
All right, let's dive right in. First things first, what are we even talking about when we say whole house filtration?
The concept is actually pretty simple. Instead of sticking a little filter on one kitchen faucet, a whole house system is kind of like a security guard for your entire water supply. It gets installed right where your main water line enters your house, and it treats every single drop of water before it ever gets to your sink, your shower, or your washing machine. And that right there is the magic of it. It's one system that covers everything. You get filtered water everywhere, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the laundry room. It's a total solution for the entire home.
So, why would you even need a system like this? Well, honestly, that completely depends on what's coming out of your tap right now. Let's go through some of the most common issues that homeowners run into. Do any of these sound familiar to you? Maybe your water has that faint swimming pool taste, or you feel like you're constantly scrubbing that white, chalky residue off of everything. These are classic signs that your water quality could use a little help. So let's meet the usual suspects. First, you've got solid particles. Think sand, silt, little bits of rust that can really mess with your plumbing over time. Then you've got chemicals, like the chlorine your city uses, that affect taste and smell. Of course, there are the hardness minerals, calcium and magnesium, that are responsible for all that scaly buildup. And for some folks, especially if you're on a private well, you might even have to think about biological stuff. Now, here's the most important thing to get your head around. There's no single magic bullet filter that fixes all of these things. Nope. You absolutely have to match the solution to your specific problem. So with that in mind, let's open up the filtration toolkit. I want you to think of each type of filter as a specialized tool designed for a very specific job. Knowing which tool to pull out is the entire game. Okay, this chart lays it all out beautifully. Your sediment filter, that's like the bouncer at the front door, stopping the big, clunky particles from getting in. Then you have activated carbon. That's your air freshener, basically. It targets things like chlorine that make your water taste and smell funky. Now, if you're sick and tired of that white scale on everything, you need an ion exchange system. That's just a fancy term for a water softener. And finally, for anyone on well water, a UV disinfection lamp is like a final sterilization checkpoint, making sure nothing unwanted is swimming around in there. Let's go just a little bit deeper on carbon for a second. You might see the term catalytic carbon thrown around. So what's that? Well, standard activated carbon is awesome for getting rid of chlorine, but a lot of cities are now using something tougher called chloramine. Catalytic carbon is basically the heavy-duty version, specifically designed to take that out. It's a really important upgrade if you're dealing with that specific chemical taste. And believe it or not, there are even more specialized tools. For instance, if your main concern is something like fluoride, you look for a filter with activated alumina. And you've probably heard of reverse osmosis, or RO. It gives you incredibly pure water, but it's usually just for drinking water right at the sink, because a whole house RO system can get pretty expensive and tends to waste a lot of water. So, you've got all these different tools in the toolkit. How do they actually work together? Well, you don't just pick one. The real magic is in how you build the system. For most people, the most effective setup is almost always going to be a multi-stage system. This is where you combine several different types of filters in a very specific order, so each one can do its job perfectly without getting in the way of the next one. Here's a really common and super effective setup. First, the water hits the sediment filter to catch all the grit. Easy enough. Next, it flows through a big carbon filter to make it taste and smell great. Then, after that, an ion exchange system softens the water to stop that scale from building up. And finally, if it's needed, a UV light zaps anything that might be left, providing that last layer of safety. See how each stage just preps the water for the next one? It's a smart system. All right, we've covered the what and the how. Now for the most important part. How do you figure out what is right for you and your home? This is the big question, isn't it? With all these different options, it can feel, well, a little overwhelming. But don't worry, it's not that complicated. We can break it down into a few really simple steps. Okay, here's your blueprint. Number 1, and this is non-negotiable, you have to get your water tested. You can't solve a problem if you don't know what it is. Number 2, figure out what bothers you the most. Is it that chlorine taste, or are you just completely fed up with the scale buildup? And finally, be realistic about the long-term commitment. Filters need to be replaced and systems need some maintenance. I really want to pause on this for a second, because if you only take away one thing from all of this, let it be this. Don't guess, test. A professional water test tells you exactly what's in your water so you can build a system that's actually designed to solve your problems. It is the single biggest difference between making a smart investment and just wasting your money. And one last but really crucial reminder. A filtration system is not a set it and forget it kind of appliance. For it to keep working properly, you have to maintain it. That means changing those sediment and carbon filters right on schedule and just making sure everything is in good working order.
So as we wrap this up, just think about it for a minute. What could cleaner, better water unlock for you? Maybe it's a better tasting cup of coffee in the morning. Maybe it's softer skin and hair after a shower. Or maybe it's just appliances that last longer because they aren't getting destroyed by scale. It all starts with the water. The only real question left is, what's in yours?